Can you all see the screen? All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is definitely the road to home ownership. Congratulations on taking the first step toward wanting to purchase a home. So my name is Lartoya Gordon. I'll be doing this presentation for you. And the reason why I wanted to even do this presentation is because in the field of real estate, the first question I'm always asked is about credit score. And you know, it's a difficult question to answer because everyone has a different situation. Some people may have student loans, some people may have like a bankruptcy, so everybody's situation is different. So I just wanted to get back to the basics and pretty much cover everything for everyone. All right, so a little bit about me. I'm born in Alabama, so I'm Alabama bred, roll tide roll. But I was raised in Palm Beach County, and I lived in Palm Beach County the majority of my life, really. I moved from Alabama when I was about 7, and I grew up in the Palm Beach County school system, graduated from Palm Beach Gardens High School, and then from there, I went to FAU, where I got different business degrees. So anything related to business and real estate is definitely something I am very passionate about, and I love helping people, you know, getting someone, especially into their first home. You know, when someone is buying and selling, that's one thing, but that first home is so special because it's such a huge accomplishment. All right, I'm also a mom to a teenager. She will be going into her senior year next year. I am also a teacher by trade. I teach business education at the local high school here. I've been teaching for about 10 years now. So you'll notice that I'm really a teacher because I always give you homework. I have worksheets and things like that. I like to remain organized so that way we can be extremely productive. And of course, I'm a realtor, and I've been a realtor for about 4 years now. And I help multiple types of people, veterans, and you know, things like that. But I really love helping people get their first home. All right, so let's get right into it. So tell me, how do you feel about the home buying process? Give me a 1 if you're excited. Give me a 2 if you are terrified. How are you feeling? Don't be shy. I do like to talk and I like to be interactive. So how you feel? Are you excited about the home buying process? Are you scared? All right, so the first thing that I had for you to do, the first homework assignment before we even started, was to actually write down your top 3 goals. All right, so what do you expect to get out of this workshop? Now, mind you, this workshop is for 8 weeks, but I cover every single thing that you could possibly need to know in order to get your credit up to where you want to be. All right, so if you haven't done so already, you should have printed out this worksheet, my top 3 goals. All right, so on this worksheet, when you write down your goals, be very specific. What do you want to accomplish? You know, instead of just saying, I want to increase my credit score, you can say, I want to increase my credit score by 100 points by October. All right, I want to buy a home by February 2022. All right, so be extremely specific in your goals. Use dates, make them realistic, and even better, have an accountability partner. You know, have someone that you can lean on and see if they're doing their homework, if you're doing your homework. All right, so did I do that right? I'm trying to make sure. There we go. Okay, so I'm still trying to let people in. Okay, so be very specific when you're writing down your goals so that way you know exactly what you're working towards. All right? So next, There are two definitions. There are two definitions of credit. All right. So the first definition is when an entity such as a store like Brand Smart or Badcock, they offer you a product and then you agree to pay for it later. So they're offering you this product or service on credit. So it's basically like an IOU. So you have the understanding that you will pay them later. So the second definition of credit is how good or bad are you at keeping this promise? All right. So they tell you, okay, you know what? You can get this sofa. You agree to pay it back over the next 3 years, right? So now they're monitoring how good are you, good or bad, are you at keeping your promise of paying them back? So if you have quote unquote good credit, it usually means that you're good at sticking to the agreement of paying your debts. All right, so what is a credit report? A credit report is a detailed record of your financial history, like your ability to repay debt on time and the public records. So it's like your money report card. So these credit bureaus, and I'll go into detail about credit bureaus in a second. These credit bureaus store financial data about you in like these huge databases. And this financial information in these databases come from different reports from your creditors. And we'll dive into that in a moment. So when we search for our name, address, social security number, it pulls all this information and put it into this easy to read report. And that report is called what? That's your credit report. So what is on this credit report? So personal information like your social security number, address, date of birth, your employer will be on there. Any accounts that you are opening and closing, including credit cards, mortgages, loans, and payment history on each account will also be included. Public records, like if you have any bankruptcies, if you have any liens or judgments or any account that are in collections, will also be listed. Credit checks, so anytime they run your credit, every time they run your credit will be on your credit report. So this is from lenders, this could be from employers, because nowadays some employers are running your credit in order for you to get the job, right? So that's what's going on these days. And any other company that you give authorization to check your credit report. Okay, so tell me, what is causing the most damage to your credit report right now? What do you think? You could just drop it in the chat box. What do you think is causing the most damage to your credit report? Do you think it's collections? Do you think it's medical bills, evictions, credit card balances, inquiries, student loans? What do you think is causing the most damage to your credit report right now? You could drop those answers in the chat. All right, Ms. Joseph, you say inquiries. That's a good one. We're actually going to touch on that today. So there are 3 credit reporting agencies, also known as credit bureaus. Well, there's actually many of them, but it's 3 that everyone knows about, which is Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And TransUnion is actually the one that most people report to. We'll get into that in a second. So Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. All right, so go ahead and take a screenshot. Go ahead and take a picture of the screen, because this gives you the phone numbers for each credit agency, and it gives you the ways that you can get your credit reports. So I give you a chance to go ahead and take a picture. All right, so the one that I'm going to be using throughout this workshop is from ScoreIQ. All right, so the reason why I'm using the one from ScoreIQ is because it is so easy to read. So I put the link in the email so that way you're able to easily pull it, because we're going to need it throughout this entire process. We're going to need access to those credit reports. And on ScoreIQ, it gives you access to all three. Like if you go on like Credit Karma only gives you access to two. A lot of people have Experian right now. That only gives you access to Experian. We need all three credit agencies. We need to see what each one has on it because they all have different things on it. One could list your student loans, one could not. Okay, and then when you're trying to get a mortgage, they're basically compiling a combination of all of them, you know, so it's good to make sure you're in good standing with all three credit reporting agencies. All right, so Credit Score IQ, that's the one that I will always refer to and show you screenshots of, but you can also pull your reports. Now, mind you, when you're pulling your reports, when you go on their website, they usually only allow you to pull it one time free for the year. But with ScoreIQ, we're able to monitor it every single day. So when it changes next month, we can still see the different changes and things like that. So that's why I like to use it, because otherwise, when you pull your report just one time, you're not seeing the changes that are going on month over month. All right. So I just thought this picture was funny. Do you remember the money you owe me? So this is how I feel the credit reported agencies are. Okay, so sometimes everyone goes through things. You might have had a health issue. You may needed to try to get some loans because, you know, something came up that you didn't foresee coming, you know, an emergency. All right, so this is the credit reported agency. This is how they are, because there's a constant reminder of you're not being able to obtain credit when you need it because of a decision you could have possibly made, or just because of things you may not know that you can really get rid of on your credit report. So why credit isn't bad? All right, so let's face it, credit is a form of debt. All right, and if you grew up in a household like mine, my mom told me, do not get credit cards are bad, and things like that. That's not true. In this world, you need credit, and you need good credit. That's the only way you're able to get a car with a great interest rate, or how you can get a home at a good interest rate. All right, so usually when we talk of having debt, we think of it like, oh, it's something bad. But it ain't. It's not really if you use it wisely. Okay, so using debt responsibly isn't always negative. For example, buying a home with a home loan is a worthwhile investment. All right, so people build wealth through real estate. So in order to do that, you know, we have to work on the credit. All right, so you need a positive credit history to qualify for that home loan. You need to use credit responsibly to establish that positive credit history. All right, so FICO score. All right, so this is how, so not based on Credit Karma or other websites, but based on what FICO thinks. So FICO is like this automated score that's done through different credit agencies, okay? So by them, they're saying that anything between 300 and 580 is considered very poor. Between 581 and 640, they consider poor. But actually, you can get a home loan with the 625 credit score. But we're just saying, for the sake of looking at FICO, generally speaking, this is how they rate it. 641 through 700, they consider fair. It's pretty good when you're trying to get a home loan, actually, but this is just how they rate it. 701 through 750, they consider good. 751 through 850 is excellent. All right, so let me give you an example. This is actually a home that is for sale in Port St. Lucie right now. 3-bedroom, 2-car, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-car garage, over 1,700 square feet. All right. So I'm doing this example based on the price of this home. This home is right now listed for $250,000. Okay. So this is just generally speaking. Okay. So with this example, with what's considered poor credit, so let's say for poor credit, they're going to give you a 5% interest rate. Your mortgage would be over $1,700, right? But if you have what they're saying is good credit, you could get a slightly lower interest rate. And it doesn't seem like a big drop, right? From 5% to 3.25. That doesn't seem drastic, but look at the amounts. All right. So if you have good credit for this same home, you're paying under $1,500. That's a big difference. That's like $250 difference. So when you look at interest rates like that, you always want the best interest rates possible, because the lower the interest rate, the more money you get to keep in your pocket. Okay. So there are 5 factors that calculate your credit score. So these 5 factors are your payment history, which is 35% of your score, the amounts that you owe, which are 30% of your score, how long is your credit history, that's 15% of your score, the inquiries, that's 10%, and then the type of debt that you have is also 10%. All right, so let's start with payment history. This one is huge. This could really make or break your credit score, really. So of all of the components, this one is most influential, because your ability to pay your current bills on time is a good indicator on whether you'll be able to pay those bills in the future. Okay, so late payments make you appear less credit worthy. As a result, they could do damage to your credit score. Okay, because when you go to get credit, that bank does not know you. Okay, so the only thing they can do is go off of your credit report. Okay, so your credit report shows your history. Have you paid everyone else on time? Because if you're not paying them on time, how are you going to pay us on time? That's how the bank see it, right? It's just like when your child applies to college. When they apply to college, they need a report card because in a transcript. Why? Because those colleges don't know them. So those colleges are like, well, we don't know you, so let's get your transcript and let's see how good you're doing in your classes. Okay, because it's a good indicator on how well your child will do at their school. If your child is flunking in high school, they're thinking if they're flunking in high school, they're going to flunk here. So it's just something for them to refer to because they don't have that relationship with you yet. All right, amounts owed. Amounts owed is how much debt you're carrying. Having a high amount of debt owed could mean that you're having trouble paying your bills, and it's another red flag for companies measuring your creditworthiness. There are 3 key factors that go into determining your mark and the amounts that's owed. And one major one is credit utilization, which is the amount that you owe on installment loans and overall balances. All right, so let me give you an example. All right, so credit utilization. So credit utilization means how much of your credit are you using? Are you maxing out your credit cards? Are you just using the bare minimum? Okay, because when you're maxing out your credit cards, it looks as if you're having trouble managing your funds, okay? And that can really hurt your credit score. So credit utilization is how much credit that you're using on these accounts, and you can keep the balance, from month to month. So to calculate it, let me show you. So you're going to add up all of your credit limits, you're going to add up all the balances, and then you're going to divide. So let me show you in the example. So in the example, I have 4 credit cards, a Capital One, a Credit One, a Chase, and a Brand Smart. These are my current balances. And then this is the actual credit limit, right? So my balance here is 500. My credit limit is 1,000. Current balance is 200. My credit limit is 500. Current balance is 400. My credit limit is 750. Current balance is 1,300. My credit limit is 1,500. And in a future class, you're going to actually calculate what is your utilization right now, so you can really understand where you stand as far as this goes. All right, so you're going to add up, and you'll do this in a future class, so we'll go back over it in a second, but it's just so that you know. You're going to add up your current balances. You're going to add up the total credit limit, okay, and then you divide. All right, so I divided 2,400 by 3,750, and then I took that amount and I multiplied by 100. So if this is true, my credit utilization right now is 64%. That's not a good thing. Not when you're trying to get a home, because they want you to be around 20%. All right, so the goal is to be under 20% is ideal. Some would say 10%, but if you shoot for 20 is relatively good. All right, so an installment loan. So an installment loan is different. An installment loan is like a personal loan or a car payment, something that the balances does not change per month. You know, you cannot add to it. If you take out a car loan and they give you a $15,000 car loan, your loan is $15,000 and you just keep paying on it until you're done. Okay, so an installment loan is a set amount of payments and it has a set loan term. So if you're making a car payment, they may say, okay, well, you need to pay $300 for 5 years. Okay, so that's your set amount of payments and then that's your set loan term. Now, other examples include mortgages, and we're also already talking about auto loans. So having less owed on your installment loans does have a positive effect on your amounts owed. All right, finally, the amount of revolving accounts that you have with the balance or maxed out the credit limit will also have an impact on the mark in the amounts owed category. So you want to keep your balances as low as possible. All right, length of credit history. Length of credit history, this is how long your credit history is. And then it's calculated using an average. So here's an example. You have a mortgage for 15 years, a credit card for 10 years, and then another credit card for 2 years. All right, so that means that your average length is 9 years. I'm going to show you an actual example of this. So keep in mind, this is before you close any of your accounts. So even if you pay off an account, closing it can shorten your average history. You also want to be careful with adding new accounts. For example, you can see how the card that only has 2 years shortens your average history. So installment loans are treated a little bit differently because once you pay off that loan no longer appears on your credit report. Let me give you an actual example. I like visuals. You know, it's one thing to explain it, but I love to show it so you can actually see the difference. All right, so this is a credit history example. So I'm thinking about getting a new credit card. So these are what I currently have, right? I have a car payment. I've been paying on that for 4 years. I have Badcock. I've been paying on that for 2. And then Capital One Visa, I had that for 9 years. All right, so if I want to know, well, what's my credit length? What's the length of my credit history? I add these up and I divide it by however many items it is. So I added up 4 plus 6 plus 9, which is 15. And then I divided it by 3 because I have 3 cards. So that means that my credit history is 5 years. So even though I had this Capital One for 9 years, whenever I get a new card, it calculates into the length of my credit history. All right, so with that said, very important. When you pay off a card, do not close that card. That credit history is invaluable. So even if you pay it off, hold on to it, put it in the back of your drawer, whatever. Do not close that card, okay? Because you're gonna need that credit history from that card. All right, so now I decided, well, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and add my new credit card. So then I added on my new MasterCard, right? So you'll see that now, okay, well now the length of my credit time is 16 years, is a total of 16 years, but now I divide it by 4 because I have 4 credit cards. So now the average credit history is 4 years. So you see it drops. So every time you get a new card, just keep that in mind that the average length of your credit history is gonna decrease. But sometimes you have no choice because if you currently have no credit cards, you do need at least 1 credit card to purchase a home. Especially if you're about a year or so out from getting a home, it's a very good idea to go ahead and get a credit card. All right, so type of debt. So there are many different types of debts. You got credit cards, mortgages, auto loans, personal loans, and having a good mix of these things and being in good standing with all these things can have a positive impact on your credit score. All right, so inquiries. All right, so this is a major one, and we're actually going to work on this one. This is going to be your homework for next class. All right, so whenever you're doing an inquiry, so that means, let's say you go get a car. This is the biggest one. I see it all the time. You go get a car and you go to the finance department because they always tell you go into the finance department. You go into the finance department and then they tell you, oh, okay, well, we have financing, we have in-house financing here. Okay, so you may think they're just going to run your credit one time, right? No, they're going to run it through all these different companies, all these different banks. It could be 10 different banks that they're running your credit through, so that way they can figure out which one has the lowest interest rate possible, right? Okay, but all these inquiries all of a sudden pop up on your credit report and then drops your credit score, right? And 9 times out of 10, you had no idea. You had no idea they were going to run your credit that many times. You thought they were just going to run it one time, but no, they run it numerous times. All right, so we're going to work on that for next class. All right, so different types of inquiries can be credit card applications, auto loans, student loan applications, mortgages, and then also apartment rental applications. So a credit inquiry is when someone you authorize looked up your credit and does a credit check. But too many could ding your credit score a few points, and then those inquiries stay on your credit report for up to 2 years. So be cautious when you're allowing different companies to run your credit. All right, so let's review. So now that we covered the 5 components of your score, let's dig into your credit report to see where you stand with each one. All right, so today we're going to work on inquiries. All right. So, well, actually, it's going to be your homework, but I'm going to show you how to do it. All right. So, your homework. So, like I said, I always use my ScoreIQ. It works easy for me because I can see everything on my credit score and my credit report all the time. So, your homework is going to be that you're going to write down the inquiries on a worksheet that you're going to receive by email as soon as this class is done. As soon as this class is over, you're going to receive an email. And it's going to tell you to list all of your inquiries. And that is going to look like this. I told you, I'm all about worksheets, right? All right, so you're going to receive a paper, a worksheet that looks like this. You know, if you don't have access to a printer, you know, if you just need to use a piece of notebook paper, that's perfectly fine. So this is a section that we're going to start with. So when you receive your worksheet, it's going to be broken down by credit agency, right? So you'll see here that the creditor is Credit Plus. The date that it was inquired was March 20th, 2020. And this is the credit bureau that it was pulled by. So on your worksheet, underneath Equifax, all right, I'm not sure if you can see it, but underneath Equifax, you will write Credit Plus and then 3/20/2020. All right, so that's all I want you to do. I just want you to write down all of your inquiries underneath the credit agency, and then we're gonna go through how to get those off next class. So that way you'll actually have time to pull your credit report if you haven't already done so. It'll give you time to print out your worksheets if you haven't got a chance to do that either. All right, so does anyone have any questions for me? Don't be shy. Any questions? All right, nice. iPhone, what's your first name? The one that's listed on the iPhone? All right. And then with that said, okay. Okay. Ferguson. All right, awesome. All right, so I guess it's the teacher in me. I break down everything in bite-sized pieces. It is so much information I'm going to give you over these next couple of weeks. Some things may pertain to you, others may not. But I'm still going to cover everything so that way everyone gets something from this workshop. It's so much information that we have to cover. So we're just going to start with those inquiries. Next class, I'm going to tell you exactly how to start getting those inquiries off. It's definitely different steps to it, and we definitely don't want to mess up anything. So we'll go over that next class. Anyone else have any questions for me? Okay. So for next class, you'll have all of your inquiries written down on either the worksheet. If you can't print out the worksheet, that's fine. Just write it down on notebook paper. All right, so you also gonna need some yellow copy paper. I know it's like a odd thing to ask for, but we're gonna need some yellow copy paper, and you will see why. So if you can get a pack of yellow copy paper, that'll be awesome, because we're gonna need it for so many different things to help get these things off of your credit. And you're gonna need a blue pen. All right, so that's what you're gonna need next class. All right, and then that is it for me for day 1. I tried to make it relatively short and sweet. Does anyone have any questions for me before we go ahead and sign off for today? If not, you are definitely free to log off. Also, if you do come up with any questions, you can either message me on Facebook. My phone number is in the emails that I sent earlier. So if you need to reach out to me and call me or text me or email me, you can do that as well. All right. So we're going to get to this finish line of straightening up this credit. All right. We want to make it as clean as possible. All right. But otherwise, have a good night.